Yo! Welcome back to Will More Mana. My name is Derek, and at the time of filming this, we are just getting into August, and I think y'all know what that means. That means we are 1 month closer to Halloween, and if y'all don't know this about me, I really like Halloween. To me, every day is Halloween. I always want to watch spooky shit. I always want to get into spooky stuff. And for that reason, one of my pet decks that I love so much, and if y'all have ever checked out Commander Petty, you've seen me play it too much, is my Halloween deck. Now, this deck has gone through a number of different commanders over the years and a whole bunch of different variations, but my current one I love so much. It is as flavorful as it's ever been. I'm starting to cut out as many of just the functional cards as I can to make sure my end goal is going to be like 95 to 100% of the deck is just purely flavorful, and if it functions, that's just gravy. But I want it to feel like Halloween every time I play it, and I felt like there's just no better commander really in the history of Magic to head this Halloween deck than Hogaak Arisen Necropolis. And Hogaak is the boogeyman of so many formats, and it's a freaking like Necropolis come to life. I feel like you can't get any more Halloweeny than that. It is so perfect. But before we get into too many specifics, if you want to pick up Hogaak, if you want to pick up any of the spooky cards in this deck, head on over to TCG Player. TCG Player is amazing. Anything you're looking for, you can find there. You can get all the different art variants, all the different foilings, whatever it is you're looking for that specific spooky art that you want. And if you use the affiliate link down in the description below, it'll help support the channel in the process. We really do appreciate all the help. Now, jumping back into this Halloween deck, if y'all are kind of wondering, Derek, this is random. It is August. It is nowhere near Halloween. Did you just run out of material? No, we'll go with that. It's what it is Innistraad's coming up soon. Innistrad is coming up, I think soon. I know previews are probably going to start before I'm ready for them, and I'm very excited. Innistrad is probably my favorite plane. I just love spookiness, and I can't stop thinking about it. I'm basically just sitting there trying to figure out what's coming out in Innistrad, figuring out what the set's going to be like, and I've been thinking about it way more than I should. And talking about my own Halloween deck is the only way I can stop myself from thinking about it. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up scripting this, filming this, and it's a way to distract myself. Now, this deck is so much fun. I have done a Hogaak deck tech that's just kind of a bait for a more, I guess, basic, regular Hogaak deck in the past. Quick thing, nobody got this, but I always, when I play my Hogaak deck, if y'all are familiar with the beautiful song Return of the Mac, I always sing Return of the Gak whenever I play my Hogaak deck. Is just like a thing I have to do, and I actually made the little thumbnail for that video in the style of the single art for Return of the Mac. Clearly it wasn't that clever, nobody got it, but for the one person out there that did, thank you. Now let's get back into this deck. I changed a lot from this Hogaak deck. I wanted it to be as on flavor as possible. It's really flavor over function. One of the things you'll notice looking at this deck list is when you talk about like deck stats and categories and all these other things that you want to have in a deck, doesn't really hit all those. I'm very low on ramp, definitely low on targeted removal, all those types of things, but I don't really care. The most important thing about this deck is when I play it, I want to feel like it's Halloween every single time. That's all that matters. And there's enough stuff in there. I put enough of the veggies in there to make sure the deck can run, to make sure you can interact and still not just sit there and do your own thing, but beyond all things, it's flavor over function for some of the cards in this deck, and finding ways to make it work as well as possible within that, and it'll make sense. So one of the things I wanted to do to make it work better while still maintaining the spookiness was give it a zombie sub theme. I wanted to make sure every win con in this deck is as spooky as possible. So I don't want just the basic, whatever you can win, however you're going to win with a Hogaak deck, which maybe is commander damage, Voltron, I don't know, however, a regular Hogaak deck's going to win. I want to make sure each win con is going to have a Halloween feel to it. And when we get into the game winning step, you'll see the ones I picked in exactly for those reasons. So we're going to use our zombie army. We're going to use all the cool spooky cards from throughout Magic and let Hogaak just backhand our opponents. But let's start with the creatures. Now, what I want to do is focus on just the most flavorful of the creatures, because it's zombies and self-mill, so it's kind of basic. Look at the deck list, you're gonna see your normal dredgers, and really all the zombie all-stars in here. None of them are super surprising. You got zombies that drain people, zombies that draw you cards, zombies that do all these zombie synergies. If you go on EDH Rec, basically if you type in zombies, you're gonna see most of the the top zombies in this deck, but there are some that are more important than others, and that's what I gotta focus on. My single favorite zombie in this deck is, mostly because of the name, is Llanowar Dead. Now I want to be in that moment when they design this card where it's like, yo, we need to get Llanowar Elves, but we got to make it a zombie. What could we call like a zombified Llanowar Elves? And somebody must have just been screwing around. I was like, Llanowar Dead, and it stuck. Because that's, every time I play this card, it's just, yeah, it's a literal name. Either way, freaking love this card. It is super fun. I kind of wish it wasn't 2 mana. I feel like it could have just been 1 and been more of a kind of analogous to Land of Wilds. Either way, it's a zombie elf. You can't be mad at it, and it does provide some of the veggies that this deck is lacking otherwise. There's a lot of times where I try to think about what card is my favorite card in Magic outside of the powerful, you know, rares, mythics, and all the awesome cards I get to play. And I think this one might be my most favorite obscure card that probably isn't that great, and it's Wailing Ghoul. It's just a simple ETB, you mill. But it is one of the spookiest cards. I've put this in almost every graveyard deck I've ever played, and sometimes even non-graveyard decks, just because I love it. It's just so spooky. You just, the zombie in your face. It's from Innistrad. It's everything I love. And this is one of those cards that every time I draw it, it makes me happy, and it really sets the vibe. If you get this out on turn 2, Halloween shit is going down from the start, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Now, these next two, I think, are the most spooky zombie cards in Magic to me. They have so much flavor and just, oh, they're beautiful. And one is going to be Unbreathing Horde. The art on this is just perfect. Unbreathing Horde is like a zombie horde. It feels like it's a Resident Evil movie. It feels like maybe it's straight out of, I don't know, what's a Black Summer. I think that, yeah, that's like, I was going to say The Walking Dead, but nobody watches that anymore. Whatever the most current good zombie show is. This is what it feels like it's from. It's just so cool. It feels like it's just taking you into that world of Innistrad so well. Not to mention it's just a really good functional card. And I feel like its cousin is going to be Newscraft Mob. Newscraft Mob is amazing. Newscraft Mob is the same kind of deal where it's just this little army of zombies. People start casting spells. You start getting more and more zombies. And Newscraft Mob is particularly great when you consider our commander is Hogaak, and it gives us essentially ramp for our commander, gives us more bodies on board that we can tap and go ahead and cast Hogaak. Because I haven't really talked about, yeah, we do want to be able to mill ourselves to get Hogaak out. We do want to have creatures out. While we can't ramp our other spells, because I was, you know, not going for the ramp, go fast package, just getting these like little 1 or 2 drop zombies out does help us get Hogaak out earlier, which is still super good in this deck. Now I kind of want to go over some of like the lieutenants. Now again, this is Halloween, so we got to get all like the all-stars who are our Freddy Kruegers and our Jason Voorheeses and our Michael Myers. Hopefully not Michael Myers, whoever it is, who are our stars of this Halloween. And there's a few of these that I think just stick out more than others. One is going to be, I mean, it's a freaking zombie god. It's God Eternal Bontu. God Eternal Bontu is so cool. I did get the little fancy art one because I'm a sucker for fancy things, and it is so pretty and it is so cool. And it just the fact, again, it's a zombie god. I feel like a zombie god is just so on theme for Halloween. You can't not do it. And it has a great function in this deck, being able to sack a bunch of our zombies or tokens. Sometimes we want everything in our graveyard for some mass reanimation effects. So the flavor and function of this card is just too perfect in here. The next lieutenant is Ishkanah. I love her so much. I mean, the art is as spooky as it's in a graveyard, a freaking giant spider. I don't know about y'all, I'm terrified of spiders, so it just gives me this weird vibe. I love Ishkanah so much. It's basically, to me, the lieutenant of the spiders from Spider Spawning. That's how I see it in my head, and Spider Spawning is one of my favorite cards ever. This card is great. It's one of the primary ways I always try to win in this deck, and we'll get more into details in the game winning step. Ishkanah is not the most efficient card, but it's super fun, and she's definitely like coming out with the squad in this deck as far as that like Halloween Avengers team. Now the next one's actually not legendary, but like it's one of those that I feel like should be. It's the OG. It's Zombie Master. Zombie Master is part of that original set of lords from Alpha, I believe, with Lord of Atlantis and Goblin King. I probably know that. Either way, I usually just play Merfolk, so it's printed along with Lord of Atlantis. Zombie Master is awesome. It gives you that regenerate, and it gives Swamp Walk, which is kind of amazing because like we need to be able to get damage through. Our zombies aren't necessarily the most evasive otherwise, and obviously we're playing Urborg, so this is a great way to get damage through. But it's the OG. You have to have this in here, I feel like, flavor-wise, and it really just sets, again, you get this out, and it just feels like you're just manning this spooky army. But I would say my favorite lieutenant in the deck, and this is where flavor and function meet so well, is Ghoul-Caller Gisa. Ghoul-Caller Gisa is so awesome. Just one of the coolest characters in Magic. She is amazing, and the fact that it just synergizes so well with Hogaak to where you can sack Hogaak, make 8 zombies, immediately tap them, bring back Hogaak. You can build armies so fast with this card, and the flavor is so cool because it's literally like you're breaking apart Hogaak. If y'all haven't stared at the art of Hogaak, it makes you wonder some things, but it is an awesome, just great, just picture of terror. And essentially Ghoul-Caller Gisa is just breaking this giant mountain of zombies into a bunch of other zombies and then just bringing them back. It is so cool. I love what this card offers, and it got reprinted and Jumpstart's coming out more, so it's not like insanely expensive. She's probably the most badass of the lieutenants in the deck, just because when this hits the board, if it doesn't get killed, you're probably going to win. Now, the next couple categories we'll get into will have the majority of the veggies I talked about and the most of the functional cards that we just had to fit in so we can actually have our deck run and not just be spooky. So the artifacts are a great example of this. We have stuff like Altar of Dementia, stuff like Skull Clamp and the Great Henge in here that all are going to give us card draw, fill our graveyard, do different things like that. Like I said, over time, I would love to replace these with spookier versions of them as it comes out over time, whether it's through getting altar sleeves for them, getting them altered, or finding new card, kind of new functional cards that do similar things down the line. But one artifact in here that is brand new, and I didn't know this got printed until like 4 days ago, and when I saw it, I don't know how I missed it. It is beautiful. It's Wand of Orcus. This card is insane. So we can go ahead and equip this to Hogaak, and when he goes and tramples through with all that damage, we just make a whole bunch of zombies. Not to mention we give our zombies Death Touch. This card is literally just insane, and it's so flavorful in here because if you think about it, Hogaak's swinging with this wand and zombies are just breaking off of him. As he's hitting people, little zombie dudes are just hopping off, flying around. It is so perfect, and it kind of just fills in because the one weird thing, I guess, about the deck is Hogaak's not a zombie, which I kind of get, but like, bro, it's a zombie. I don't know what the zombies, but it's like it's like a zombie planet, a zombie mound, whatever the hell it is. It should be zombie avatar, whatever it is in that name. Either way, this kind of like makes him one with the zombies because he's given all the zombies Death Touch. It's like they're boys now. It's not like they're kind of just awkwardly in the same place. Either way, this card just ties things together. It's just too perfect. I was thrilled when this card came out, and it's doing everything we want to do. And then the other veggie category is going to be the instants. This is where we get most of our instant speed removal, a lot of our interaction, a lot of card draw. There's not enough interaction, like I said, in this deck, just being straight up. If you want to make it more functional, you're going to cut some of the random spooky things and you're going to maybe trim some of the fat with the zombies and probably put in more of this removal. But this is what I found to be kind of a nice bare minimum to where I always feel like I'm able to interact, but I'm not just sitting there blowing everything up and always having an answer. I got to be real strategic with it. But it's obviously the stuff like the Crossing Grips and the Assassin's Trophies and different things like that. Nas Trophy is actually kind of a spooky art in and of itself, so that helps. But like Beast Withins, all that type of stuff. We have colors where we can pick the best of the best and always have access to it, which is pretty cool because we do get some spooky cards within this. So stuff like Grizzly Salvage is cool because it kind of does what we're looking to do while still being kind of spooky. So we get a good mix. Arachnogenesis also fits the Halloween theme, just pooping out spiders and being able to have defense like that. When you're running around punching people with Hogaak, you tend to make enemies, whether you like it or not. So having something like an Arachnogenesis is always awesome to just be able to be like, ha! No, you don't attack me, and you poop out a bunch of spiders, so it's always awesome. Now with the enchantments, two of the most flavorful cards in this deck, and two of my just absolute favorites in any graveyard deck. One's going to be Oversold Cemetery. Just so perfect, obviously, for Halloween, and it's also just so functional because we are trying to fill our graveyard, trying to go ahead, get zombies back in our hand, or really get any of our creatures back into our hand, because there are some other ones we have as win cons in here that we're going to want. Another great thing that's in here is Tombstone Stairwell. I think this card, I don't know if it's reserve list or it's just old as crap, but it's probably gotten to a little expensive at this point, but you have it. It's just the weirdest card ever. Basically, everybody in their turn gets a whole bunch of 2/2 hasty zombies that they sack at the end of the turn. Now, this is a card that has enabled my opponents a lot by accident because they get a million death triggers, they get all these tokens, but we're not here to care about that. We're just happy that every turn zombies are coming to life. We are turning everyone's deck into a Halloween deck, and that is what we're here for. We are running a Planeswalker now. Lolf, I think, is the Planeswalker from D&D. I have not picked that one up yet, and if I said the wrong name, I apologize. I'll put her up here. That is going to be in this deck eventually because it is super spooky, and I love the spider thing. So that is going to go in here eventually. Right now, it's just Grits. Grits is in the deck. Now, even though I talked about my bro video that I do think of Bugs and Grits every time I see this, just the art is too beautiful not to run it, and I really like it. It helps self-mill. It's got the insect thing going. It acts as a creature in our graveyard, which is great for some of our other synergies. So Grits does exactly what we want it to do, and it's not really a big threat planeswalker when it hits, so sometimes it'll stick around and let you get that added value. All right, now the best category, the most important category in this deck are the sorceries. Now, there's a few things about these sorceries. One, I had to make sure there were exactly 13 sorceries in the deck, because like unlucky number 13, Friday the 13th, all that type of stuff. Because the sorceries are most important, we have to have exactly 13. Now, this has gotten kind of inconvenient because it's made cutting heart cards and switching things a little bit more difficult, but I'm kind of OCD like that, and I needed to have 13 sorceries at all times. So that's never going to change. We just got to figure out, we got to prioritize which ones are more important. but this is the best category in the deck. We have really the inspiration for this deck. It's my favorite card that I personally own. It's my favorite card in Magic ever. It's All Hallows Eve. That was the inspiration. I picked one of these up a while back, and it was one of those cards I never thought I would own. I got one, and it was just like, I have to build a deck, and it's kind of evolved from that. But the best thing about this card is you don't have to go drop a bunch of money on it, because we have so many functional reprints. You can throw in Twilight's Call, Living Death. You have tons of options that are, in all honesty, just strictly better than All Hallows Eve. So you don't have to worry about picking that one up, or just proxy it if you like the art, whatever it is. But that was the inspiration. We have so many of these cool effects, and that's really the goal. If I get to cast All Hallows Eve, or Zombie Apocalypse, or Living Death, it gets me in that Halloween spirit, and I feel good. I actually cast, and it's great because it's not all about, with these cards, necessarily winning. It's just the flavor of it for me. So a great example of this is, I was playing a game the other night, and I cast Zombie Apocalypse just to remove, I think it was like a Mother of Runes. I forget, it was like 2 random humans that were on board that were causing trouble. And I think I brought back 1 zombie. But the flavor of that zombie coming to life and just eating the crap out of the humans on board, 100% worth it. It's just, these cards are so much fun. And that's actually why I added the zombie sub theme, because I just felt like you can't have a Halloween deck and not run the card Zombie Apocalypse. It just felt really wrong. And yeah, anytime I can cast any one of those 3, it just feels like it's a win for me. And probably the best thing about these sorceries is we get so many powerful cards that just so happen to fit so well with the spookiness, whether it's a culling ritual with this like spooky ritual, or buried alive, toxic deluge, just all these like genuinely terrifying things that also just happen to be the best cards for those slots sometimes, which is really exciting. And obviously one of my all-time favorites is Spider Spawning. I love this card to death. It is a card I will force into any graveyard deck, and just the idea of spiders crawling out of your graveyard, again, just adds to the whole atmosphere of the deck. Now, looking at the lands aren't super important if you actually want to put this deck together. Now, this is one of my pet decks I've been playing for forever, so my mana base is just really extra. You don't need to worry about all that. Fetch lands are great, but even just Terramorphic Expanses, Evolving Wilds, or some of the newer reprinted ones that are a little bit cheaper just because they help you get a Hogaak earlier, which, again, this is the type of deck which not necessarily the most powerful all the time, so getting Hogaak out quick and starting to get swinging and playing a little aggressive is a good thing. But really, just don't worry about what I got in here. What I would say is, of the lands in here, stuff like Colony Garden that just gets you a plant right away to be able to get Hogaak out, phenomenal. Mortuary Mire is just a land you can go ahead and bring a card back from your graveyard. These are all great, and like I said, just the cheapest fetches you can get, and a lot of basics are going to do you great. I do run Hermit Druid in this deck, and I actually do want to make sure I keep my basic land count up, because this is not the type of deck, I'm not trying to mill my entire deck at once. This deck kind of plays for the long game, and if you do that, you're kind of playing a dangerous game. So I do want a good number of basics even with that, so you can put as many basics as you want. But there are some that are definitely on theme. So like Gaia Reach Sanitarium is spooky as shit. You gotta have that in there. Woodland Cemetery is a freaking cemetery. You gotta have that in there. And obviously one of the greatest lands of all time, Westvale Abbey. It's like a haunted church thing. You can't not have that in a Halloween deck. I had to put that in there. So there's definitely some flavorful ones I put in there. But for the most part, I would say that the mana base is probably the place you can kind of go the most budget on. Just pick a really spooky basic. I personally love the Innistrad basics, really any of them. But whatever the spookiest set is, whether it's Shadows over Innistrad, Eldritch Moon, whatever it is you're feeling, you can go ahead and run those basics. Then every lane you draw is spooky, and it's perfect. Now that's going to do it for all the categories. Now let's get into the best part of every deck tech. And in this case, the spookiest part, the Halloweeniest part, it's that game-winning step. How are we about to win the game with this deck? And like I said, we got to be on flavor with this. So the first way to win the game is going to be mass reanimation, and the best way to do it would be with either All Hallows Eve or Twilight's Call, which is definitely a more budget better option, or preferably Zombie Apocalypse. Playing Zombie Apocalypse to win would be the dream. Just filling your graveyard, playing a Zombie Apocalypse. Hopefully some people got some humans on board that are going to get eaten in the process, bringing back a whole bunch of zombies and just using those zombie synergies to just take people out and really just overwhelm the board. It's just so flavorful, so perfect, and it's just, yeah, it's really the first way I would like to win most of the time. Now, for the second way to win the game, we want to take advantage of one of our lieutenants and one of my favorite cards ever, that card Ishkanah I happen to mention. We love spiders. Spiders are super spooky, and Ishkanah has the ability of, you can go ahead and pay 7 mana, which is a lot. Now, target opponent loses life equal to the number of spiders you control. Now, this goes great with spider spawning or arachnogenesis, but one thing that we can do and get flexible with is use Conspiracy. I do run Conspiracy in this deck, and it's really kind of, the use is twofold. If we have a bunch of zombies out and we play Ishkanah, we can go ahead and play Conspiracy naming spiders and just kind of go off like that. And if it just so happens we have a ton of spiders because of arachnogenesis or spider spawning, and we play one of our zombies that drains people, we then turn our zombies into zombie spiders. Yes, that's what we're here to do. Conspiracy is really the win con, and it's all about using draining effects, whether it's the Shepherd of Rot that's going to drain people, or Ishkanah, and then choosing the tribe for all their spiders and zombies to be, and taking people out, whether they're getting eaten by zombie spiders or killed by spider zombies. I mean, either way, I'm good with it. And then the third way to win the game that usually goes down with this deck, honestly, is going to be with a card that's not super surprising, but it's still super spooky. I don't know how I feel. And it's Jarad, Golgari, Lich Lord. It almost feels too basic. I feel like I wanted a kind of a different win con, but Jarad is a freaking zombie elf, super spooky in and of himself, and he's really kind of a boogeyman, because every time you see him, you know something bad's about to happen, unless you're the one playing him. Jarad is great in this deck. We can use Hogaak to go ahead and drain everybody, and obviously, kind of within this, we can swing at people with Hogaak. I don't find myself really almost ever winning by commander damaging people with Hogaak, just because I don't really play any equipment, and the trample's great. Usually Hogaak is used to punch through, but I can't remember the last time I won with commander damage with him in this. Typically these other ways are going to be how we do it, and Jarad I think is the best one, because just sacking Hogaak, draining everyone, replaying Hogaak because it's just so easy to recast, and then draining again, you can really get into different ways that just take people out. But my personal favorite combo with Jarad, not a surprise at all, but also an incredibly spooky card, is Lord of Extinction, and especially that masterpiece. Jason Engel is just such a freaking talented artist. Amazing artist. I love his card so much, and the masterpiece, the Invocation of Lord of Extinction, might just be one of my favorite pieces of Magic art ever. I have a signed copy of it in this deck, and it is awesome just to be able to, Lord of Extinction, which is the most like apocalyptic spooky name possible. You play this with your zombie elf, dreaming everybody out, and it is kind of a 2-card combo type deal, because it's most of the time it's going to win, but in a deck like this it really is necessary. We don't really run tutors and stuff, so if you can get into a late spot and just pull this off, it's actually pretty exciting. That's going to do it for this week's deck tech. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. This is one of my favorite decks. This is more than any deck I play, I think, where I just get engrossed in the flavor of what's happening. It feels like I'm telling a story. I'm just getting lost in Halloween, and it doesn't get any better than that for me in Magic. So I really hope y'all enjoyed it. If y'all have any of your own personal flavorful decks y'all want to tell me about, definitely let me know in the comments below. And as always, a huge shout out to all the patrons. We love and appreciate y'all so much. Thanks for believing in what we do, and make sure y'all are checking out Commander Petty Saturdays at 8:30 Eastern time. It is always fun. It is always petty, and we always appreciate some trash talk, and most of the time just fixing all my misplays. Very much appreciate that. Now, we've had some amazing guests lately. We had Commander Crunch on not too long ago. We had EK on not too long ago. Just amazing guests. So definitely come hang out. It is always a good time. But yes, definitely getting some more personal decks before we get into Halloween soon, because Innistrad is coming. Innistrad never stops. Magic never stops. But until then, I will see y'all next time.